Peace and blessings. Welcome to the channel. We are continuing our series working on our handsome young man, Kato. His highlights look absolutely wonderful. The touch-ups that we did, or the repairs that we did on the side of his nose, flawless. And on his ear, which ear was it? This ear. Flawless. You cannot even see where it was. So it came out very, very nice. I'm very happy. I'm grateful for that. So at some point in this video, we will go in his ears a little bit darker. As you can see, he still needs a little bit more color in the ears. Just a little bit, maybe one more shade, one more coat of paint. And we were working on this beautiful chocolatey color with the limbs. What I did off camera was I went into the creases with black because the other colors were not actually giving the crease look. It wasn't giving. I'm trying to get into camera where you can maybe see. So I went in with black, and the black was nice. The black air dry paint. It worked out quite nicely, but I wasn't completely satisfied. So what I did was I went on top of the paint after it dried with my Prismacolors, okay? And I went over with the black. So I've done the 3 limbs, and we have the left leg left to do. Okay, so I have my black here, and I also have what's called kneaded eraser. This is a large size. It's kind of like an elastic eraser, and it's good when you're using powders because it can, you can tap it off and get the powders off. You can tap and get the powders off. And also with the color pencils, you can also tap and get the colors. If you go over the line, if you go in an area that you don't want, you can remove that with this eraser. And I found out about this eraser from another doll artist here on YouTube. Yes, her name is Adelaide, and she has a wonderful channel. So I found out about this from her, and it's very, very helpful. I also watched her mix her paints with the satin glazing liquid, the wedding paint, and the liquid latex. She does air dry paint as well. So I like the consistency that I was observing on her channel. And so I incorporated that on, in my painting, because prior I was just using the air dry paint with distilled water. And that was fine, but it was a little bit thin, and um, I had to work really quick with it. So mixing it with the Liquitex, the satin gel liquid, and the wedding drops. Um, the satin glaze liquid and the wedding drops are from Golden. So those worked out quite nicely. And I did mention that in one of my other videos. So yeah, I just wanted to make mention of that. Um, because when we find something that can work and can possibly help us out, it's nice to be able to share it if at all possible. Here we are. Thank you, Adeline. um, Now we're going to go over that black acrylic paint with the black Prismacolor pencil. And what I'm doing is I'm just going to go over it lightly. I'm not going to press hard. I'm going to go light. Oh, and you can see the deeper coloring on the knee and the ankles that we were talking about before, and on the toes. And we did that in the last video. So we're moving along quite nicely, quite nicely. So I'm going to go over um, with a light touch, really. Just kind of like a little bit of a light touch to, to go over it. And then what I'm doing is I'm pouncing, I'm pouncing it out with, um, with my brush. Let me set my desk up a little bit better so that you can see. Oh, I'd like to mention that this Prismacolor, um, I purchased this off of Amazon, and it has quite a few colors in it. It's 12 colors in here. These are the colors, and I really, when I purchased it, I wanted to try to get something colors for creasing. So it has, some of the colors for creasing. I thought, I could maybe also map my hair on the dolls for rooting. So I thought that these colors might be helpful. Um, and like I said, I got it off of Amazon. So I don't remember how much it was, but it wasn't that much. It wasn't that much. So that's the Prismacolors. So we're going to go ahead. I went across with, you can maybe see, okay, and then I'm taking this brush and I'm kind of blending it out a little bit to kind of blur it a little bit so that it gives the impression of a shadow rather than a line, you know. Um, so it's coming out rather nice. And again, with the creases, I don't crease every single crease, and I'm mindful of the pressure that I use. And I don't do every single crease because I want that bit of dimension, and it kind of gives a little bit of a shadow because when you are painting your kit, even the creases that you maybe don't crease over, they're going to get paint anyway because they're just going to get some paint anyway, and it gives some added dimension, some dimension, added dimension, so it's not all flat one color. Again, I'm going rather light. The nice thing about using pencils is you can work a little bit neater, slightly a little bit quicker, and you do have a little bit more control over where you are painting. So you have more control over where you are creasing over. Now, I won't say that I use the pencils for everything, but I do find that they are nice. And what happens is after they sit for a while, um, they do really, they do stain the kit, meaning it becomes a permanent color on the kit, so it stays. And if you remember in um, the other series that I did with Honey, I did her creases with, oh no, 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 that's not true. Wait a second. Honey, I did the creases with powder. And for our handsome Kato, I began the creasing with the Prismacolors, but as you can see with this deep, deep, rich skin tone, I needed to go back over the creases. So as you can see, I'm going over it, and you see how nicely they look? That shadow. You know, when you are creasing, you have to take the overall skin tone into consideration as to what is going to look normal, because the crease is supposed to kind of give the appearance of a shadow. So the shadow tends to be maybe a little bit darker. However, you want the shadow to be complementary to that skin tone that you are working with. You know, sometimes a deep purple color might be okay if it might work if you're painting a doll that has a little bit lighter color. That might work. Sometimes a brown might work. You know, different colors work for different skin tones. And it's something that you may have to just kind of play with a little bit to see what it is that you like, what your preference is. And the soles of the feet, I do a little bit of creasing, but not a whole lot, because you don't really see in reality, in real life, babies with, very deep creases on their feet. You do see the creases a little bit, but you don't see very deep, deep, deep creases. At least I've not observed that. So, yeah, so what I do is I try to create realism, depth, and color variations to help to create some realism. And you can kind of see uh, some of the creasing here. And again, I'm barely pressing, and then I'm going over the kit. Now, of course, because I'm wiping, I'm trying to blur the lines. Your paint needs to be dry. So this has dried for maybe, I don't know, I guess quite not 24 hours, but it's dried for quite some time. And when I touch, it feels the skin feels kind of powdery, so it's dry. It's dry enough to work with, which we know that it takes 72 hours to maybe a week for it to cure, but it's dry to touch where we can work with it. Now, I would say that you do pay attention to the instructions with whatever paint line you are using, and you have to see how that works. And a lot of times, the temperature in the area that you're painting will make a difference with curing time and, the time of year. Those are things that make a bit of difference too. So, I keep that into consideration as well, because not only am I a reborn artist, I do other artistic crafts where I make press-on nails, custom gel press-on nails, and pedicure as well. So I know that the curing time and the consistency of the gel paint or the gel polish changes depending on the temperature. So, that's something that I carry over into reborning, some of that knowledge. So you can definitely, I encourage you to read the instructions, the guidelines for whatever paint line you're using. And some of it is going to be a little bit of trial and error. Like I said, because temperature in your area, the overall temperature, the climate, and the temperature in your area where you're painting, the studio or room or wherever it is that you're painting makes a difference. So I am going over this, and this paint, these prism colors, they will stay when we go over with the paint as well. Um, so some of them I'm going lighter than others because I want that dimension. And on the toes, I'm going to go a little bit, but again, I'm not doing all of the lines, all of the creases. So I'm looking, because remember I did do the creasing with the black acrylic paint and that dried. And then now what I'm doing is I'm going over the area with the prism colors to kind of be able to give a little bit more of an illusion of shadow with blurring it. So here we go. It's coming out quite nicely. Quite nicely. Okay. Try to see if I can get it in the light where you can see. Okay. So I think that looks good. It looks like rolls of fat on the baby. And the same thing on the legs. It looks like rolls of fat. Because since we're using, our baby has such a beautiful, deep chocolate complexion, in order for the creases to be complementary, we have to have a color that would work. Now, I did mention that I have the the kneading erasers. So what it looks like, it comes in large, uh, like a large cake. And what I do is I peel, just take a pinch of it off. You don't need much. A little goes a long ways. And I don't have anything that I really wanted to just say really remove as far as paint, but I do see a few little, little specks of, maybe some dust. I think I'm going to turn my air purifier up a little bit. I hope when I turn it up, it doesn't make too much noise. It's not too loud. Um, so I like the way these creases. Again, I did the other three limbs off camera. Okay, I think we are finished with our Prismacolors. So I would like to just show you at least one of the arms. And you can see the creasing on the arms. It looks very nice. You see the hands, the fingers. That looks very realistic. Looks nicely realistic. So I think using the Prismacolors to do some creasing might be might be something pretty good. I saw another artist use some of the Prismacolors. There are a number of artists that do use the Prisma pencils for different reasons, and as you can see, it does it does work. It does work. I'm just so amazed with this beautiful chocolate complexion and the shading. I mean, look at the difference between the flange and the skin color, and we can see some of that that shadow, the shading of around the wrist, a little bit with the elbows. Just gorgeous. Just beautiful. And the fingers. I mean, wow. They look really nice. Really, really nice. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to go over and continue working on perfecting the sole of, this portion of the foot. We're going to work on that. We're going to build up the color a little bit more so we can eventually go over it with the red. We can see how nice the skin tone is, and we can see the shadows of the color where we went around the ankles, the knee, and on the toes. So you can see that, and the creasing looks very good too. The creasing looks very nice. So we're just going to work on correcting that on that foot. And we have a little bit on this foot here that we need to do a little bit of correction with that. Okay, so we're going to begin to work on correcting some of this coloring on the foot. Actually, it does look good, but I think we can do a little bit more to perfect it. So I'm going to take my angled brush, and I know you might be saying, why do I have my brushes on a paint palette? Because this is easier to clean, to keep going through, as quite a bit of the paper towels. So that's why. So it's easier for me to clean and to see what it is that I'm doing, because I like to have my brushes lying down as opposed to being in a cup. I do have what I'm not using, I have those in cups, but when I'm actually, working on it, I like to have the brushes flat so I can see them and the paint is not going into the handle because it's up. So okay, so we are going over the little bit, because remember we cleaned this up. We wiped it with the distilled water, so that removed um, some of the layers of paint. So now what we're doing is we're trying to put some of that back. Now we're going to pounce it out. Now what will happen, we're making the little bit of a correction, but what happens is because of the variation in the skin tone that we do want, um, it will still look very nice. You see, we just have to kind of blend a little bit more, get a little bit more color on there and blend it more. But we have to build it up slowly. I like to go slow to build it up, and because I am still learning, how to do these different paints. I mean, I have the paint wheel, I have some books on colors and things like that. A book on color, I should say. However, there's nothing like when you're actually doing it yourself. So, and that's what I'm doing. I'm doing, and I'm learning, and I'm enjoying it a lot. I really am. I'm enjoying it. I am enjoying it a lot. A lot. We're getting that skin color. It's coming together all the same color. We just got to get it, the shape. We just have to get some of that shape that I would like a little bit more. Now on the hands, I think all of this is probably pretty good. Um, yeah, I think all of this is probably pretty good. I may go around here just a little bit, just a tiny, tiny bit, just to kind of accent that border, you know, just to accent it just a little bit. Oh, and I said yesterday about the triangle in the hand, and I thought about it later. I said, you might not really understand what I was talking about, the triangle. It's a little bit hard to see on the kit. So I'm going to show you on me what, and you can look at it on yourself. Okay, if you, when you look at your hand like this, you see how your palm goes like this, okay? So that's kind of like the point of the, that's like the point of the triangle. So you go like this, and in there, like that, that's the base of the triangle. So you see just that little bit in there, and that's that triangle. And so in the middle of that triangle, in this part, is where we placed the blue. Now, it doesn't have to look like a triangle, but it's kind of like the shape of the triangle when you look at your hand. Um, and the same thing with the baby's hand. Now, as you can see, the tips of our fingers and generally our toes are a little bit more red. And remember, we talked about maybe putting a little bit more red on the tips of the toes, the underside of the toes, and the fingers. So we will do that just on the pads, the pad of the fingers and the pad of the toes. That's that underside. So we'll be doing that. I'm going to take a look at this other hand to see if there's any perfecting that we need to do on here. What we're going to do is we're just going to go a little bit, just a little bit, to be able to blend this color around on that palm and on this side too. Okay, remember we maintain the border. We maintain the border. Okay, so it looks nice. And we're going to go back over the creases with a complementary color to the palm. Now, I think, that it's acceptable to use different colors on the same baby for varying areas on the kit. The black creasing, the black color for the creasing that's on the darker skin tone is applicable. However, in the lighter portion, I wouldn't use the black. I would think that that would be a little bit too harsh a color contrast. So we're going to use something that's a little bit lighter. We might even go in, believe it or not, with a shade a little bit deeper than the nutmeg, just a little bit deeper, because it's not that you really want to see a big contrast. Because if you look at your own hands, you don't see a major huge contrast in the color. You do see some contrast, but it's not like a major color, you know. So, and that's what, I'm looking at. I'm thinking of, how to, mimic that. Now we're going to go into our Kato's ears to deepen that color up. And we, of course, are making sure that we're stirring. I did turn the air purifier up, so I hope it's not making too much noise for the video. I hope that you can hear me speaking and the sound is not a distraction. So I hope not. I hope it's not. So, yeah, so I'm going around the ear. You can see where it's wet. That's where I've just gone. And we're going to pounce that out. I'm going to pounce it out with my Wet n Wild eyeshadow brush. And this is nice, a nice brush. And as affordable as they are, you can buy multiples to have in a few different colors and to also have spares if you want. So the color is quite nice. Okay, okay. Let's see if you can see a little bit of that color. The sun is out, so um, that that is helpful. So I am using some natural light as well as my ring light and my overhead light um, for filming. Um, I don't know. I was thinking of maybe getting another light, the same type that you use when you are actually taking pictures. It kind of resembles an umbrella. So I was thinking about maybe getting that. I have a light box that I use when I take photos of, the nails that I create, as well as the other items that I create, the organic lip gloss, the essential oil fragrances for male and females. So I do organic eyeshadows as well as loose powders. Everything is natural, healthy. That's why it is called the Legacy Nails, Beauty and Health. And then I'm going to add and reborns onto it. So we did go over the ears. The ears look nice. Um, yeah, I think the ears look nice. So we're going to go over a little bit with um, the lips and the shadow under, under the chin. So, and I do want to do a little bit on the side of the nose, just a little bit, almost like a contour. I'm debating, because this nose does look nice as it is. I don't know if I need to really do anything else with it. He is such a beautiful kid. I mean, those features are so lovely. Just lovely. Wow. Okay, so we're gonna continue doing somewhat of an outline of the lips. We're going to go with um, this color here, and we're going to kind of go around that milk blister. So I want to do that. I'm going to stir up this paint, rinse this brush, water. Okay, stir this up some more. And we're going to go right on ahead, and I'm going to go around that a little bit with the milk blister. Now this is a deeper color than what we used on the last video. This is a little bit deeper, not much, but just a little bit deeper. Again, like I said, I like to slowly build colors up, layering colors. I think gives a nice effect. And we went on the under portion of the milk blister area that would be touching the bottom lip. Now we're not going to pounce, we're just going to tap it because we want it to stay somewhat in place. You know, we want it to kind of stay in place. And you maybe can see the area, let's see, the milk blister. I'm just trying, okay, I think you can see it there. You see it stands out quite nicely. Not, you know, really harsh, but it does stand out. Now, I want to go around the bottom of the lower lip, the bottom lip. I want to go around a little bit. You see the borders of the lip? I want to go around there just a little bit, not a lot, but just a little bit. I don't want too much color because I want to maintain that translucent appearance, but I do want to be able to have some of it outlined. And we're going a little bit on the border of the lower lip, but on the inside. So we're not overlining the lips. We're kind of going a little bit on the inside of the lip border because that will go ahead and that will create dimension. Okay. Okay, you see where it looks wet, that's where we applied it. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a small brush and I am going to pounce it a little bit so that it goes a little bit further into the lip itself. So that it gives that little bit of a shadow. And you see it still looks very translucent. We're going to do the same to the top lip, just a little bit. And we're going around the border of the lip, the inside of the border. And we're following the shape where you see that pronounced M. You see where it looks like a M. See, it's wet there. So that's where we went. Now, on this time, what we're going to do is we want to blend some of that color down into the lip. So we're going to pounce it going toward, you know, the lip. Okay. Now I want to also go around the top lip, the top of the lip, where it would give the appearance almost that we are overlining. However, we're not overlining, we are just creating what will give some shadow. So that will, and we're going to blend this, we're going to pounce it so that it gives that illusion. Okay, let's see if you can see a little bit of the difference. Okay, I did one side, I did this side, and let's see, I did this side, and you may be able to see a little bit of the shadow there. And this other side is not done. I didn't do it yet. So I'm going to do it now. And it just gives that little bit of shadow. It's almost like a mustache, but it's not. um, but it gives that little bit of shadow there. We don't want a deep contrast, but we just want a little bit of color there. Okay, I think you might be able to see it. I think you can. And what we'll do is we will probably go over it one more time once this dries. And then we're going to go inside the lips, the corners, and where it separates the upper and the lower. We just want to continue to make sure that we have that bit of distinction. Okay. And then we are going to go, we're going to pounce just a little bit, tapping, 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 tapping. Not pouncing very hard, but just really kind of tapping in between, because we just want to make sure that we are getting that distinction of the upper and the lower lip being separated. Okay. Now I'm going to go on the lower side of the milk blister, not where the milk blister is, but the lower side where to make a little bit of a outline. Let's see. I probably didn't explain that very well, but when I do it, you may be able to see it. And, okay. Because remember, the milk blister area that we outlined hasn't had enough time to dry yet. But we did put that little bit of, you see it looks like a W almost. Let's see, can you see it? Okay. And the next video, we're going to go a little bit more into the lips, because this video is quite long already. So I think I will end this video and come right back, and we will do more detailing of the lips and the mouth. Yeah. Oh, while we're here, I guess we can kind of go across this little bit under the chin. Well, under the bottom lip. on the chin here. That gives that distinction. And then, let's see, and we're going to pounce it out. Again, that creates shadow, so you have the illusion of depth. You see? That just gave that nice bit of what appears to be shadow. And we can, of course, go back into the nose, the nostrils here with the same color. We can always continue to build it up. Because remember, we're doing little by little. And then we will tap it so that it stays in place. Okay, so it looks like it really does have depth. And when he looks straight, you know, it doesn't look crazy. It just looks nice. I think it looks normal. So I think that concludes this video. Do like, comment, subscribe, and share. Tell me what you're thinking about this series with our handsome Kato, what you're thinking, what you think about using the Prisma colors with the creasing, using the black acrylic paint, and then topping it off with the black Prisma color. Tell me what you are thinking. Enjoy your day. Stay safe. Come back again soon. Peace and blessings.